Welcome back to Anderson Acres. We're here with Shadowfax again and with Arwen's butt. And today we're going to talk about coat color modifiers. So in the last video, smooches. Mwah, okay, good smooches. Good boy. Yeah, mwah, I love you. So in the last video, the last Shadowfax video, we talked about the base colors. Your chestnut, your black, your bay. And we talked about how those are the only three colors in Pony World and why that is. Today we're going to talk about the modifiers, the genes that modify the color your pony has so you have so many different colors. You really only have three colors, but you actually have many, many more because of modifiers. So these modifiers act on the base colors to change the base color. They might lighten it, they might darken it, they might move pigment around, they might introduce white hairs, which is really just moving pigment out of those hairs. So we're going to talk a little bit about those modifiers today. So the first modifier I'm going to talk about, because it's the modifier that Shadowfax here has, is the cream. The cream modifier dilutes the color of the coat. Remember, he's a Palomino. Shush. He's a Palomino. He's fine. So the cream modifier dilutes the color. So in chestnut, if you're a chestnut and you have this modifier, you have a cream modifier, you become a Palomino. If you're black and you have a cream modifier, you become a smoky black. They're beautiful, by the way. And if you are bay and you have the cream modifier, you become a buckskin. So if you are a pony who has two of those modifiers, so you have two cream modifiers, cream is one of those modifiers that kind of stacks. So if you're a homozygous cream, he is not. He only has one cream modifier. But if you got a cream modifier from your mom and your dad, then the modifier actually intensifies. Not all modifiers intensify. Okay, some modifiers just are them. They're just themselves. And it doesn't matter if you have one copy of the gene or two. But the cream modifier, if you have two copies, it gets really, really intense. So if you're a Palomino who has two copies of the cream modifier, you become a Cremello, okay, which is like almost white. They get so bleached out. They're almost white. Okay, not white. They're not white. They're Cremellos, but they're almost white. If you are a black horse and you get two copies of that gene, you're a smoky cream. And if you are, ow, I just got bitten by a bug. But if you're a bay, you actually end up a Perlino. Okay, so if you get two copies of those genes, which is fantastic. I don't know why Arwen is hiding behind some wire. We don't ask these questions. We do not ask questions around here. Except for why is Shadowfax so cute? Smooches? Yes, good boy. Good smoochy boy. You're a smoochy boy. He likes to smooch. So cream is what his modifier is. Okay, that's the only modifier he got. That's it. He only got the cream modifier, so that's why he is genetically a Palomino. All right, but there are other modifiers. One of them is silver. Silver also dilutes the color across the entire body. Okay, so silver's actually kind of rare in the horse world, but it's really common amongst mini horses. Probably because people breed like crazy for crazy colors with mini horses. So of course it's going to be more common in mini horses. This affects black pigment the most. Okay, the more black pigment you have, the more you'll be affected if you get that silver modifier. So, excuse me, it expresses mostly in black horses. Okay, so if you have a black horse with a silver modifier, you actually end up with a silver dapple. Okay, so silver blacks are called silver dapples. Chickens. Chickens are on the loose. Run, guys, run. So silver dapples don't necessarily have dapples at all. They can, but they don't necessarily. It's just the name of the color. Now, depending on the breed of horse or where you are in the world, that same color might be called taffy or even chocolate. But it's the same color. Okay? He's going to go give the chickens heck. He's like, get out of here, chickens. They live here too, mister. You crazy guy. Excuse me. It's been a long day and it's kind of hot out here. So, anyway, so a silver black horse is called a silver dapple most of the time. Maybe it'll be called a taffy or a chocolate, depending on breed or location. It depends. They can be anywhere from, depending on how intense the gene is, hi smooches, but depending on how intense the gene is, they could be a silver gray to a chocolate brown. They'll have a lighter mane and tail. And remember again, just because it's called a dapple doesn't mean they're going to have dapples. They might. That might be how the gene expresses, but it's not necessarily true that they definitely have dapples. Okay? So like I said, silver acts mainly on black pigment. So on bays, it'll act the strongest on the black hairs. So the manes and tails get lightened, the legs get smoky or even chocolate in color. But that's it. The actual kind of chestnut part of a bay isn't really affected by the silver gene. So also, if you're a chestnut pony and you get a silver gene, you don't express it at all because you don't have any black hairs for it to work on. So Shadowfax does not have the silver gene. If he did, it wouldn't matter because he is a chestnut, so it doesn't express in him anyway. What it would do is it could pass to his children. Okay, so that's why it's kind of important to know. Chicken. So it's kind of important to know when you have these genes. That's why we do color testing. That's why most breeders will do a color testing to make sure they know what their horse is genetically. It is important to note that a homozygous silver, so 2 copies of that silver modifier, leads to eye issues. So if you have a horse with a silver modifier, you generally don't breed it to another horse with a silver modifier. Okay, you just don't because of the potential for eye issues. And they're quite severe, the eye issues. Thank you, chicken. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for all the noise. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. So our next modifier is dun. Now, duns are really pretty. I really like them. They're sometimes considered a more primitive modifier because you get kind of patterns like you would in more ancient breeds of wild horses. But I really like it. So the body color, when you have a dun modifier, the body color ends up diluted slightly. The mane and tail darken, and you get a dorsal stripe, which is kind of a cross over the withers, and then that comes down the shoulders. Sometimes you even get bars on the legs. So duns are real pretty. I like duns. Difference between a bay and a dun, it's that dorsal stripe. So duns have the dorsal stripe. A straight bay will not have the dorsal stripe. Okay? It's actually a really fun... Hi. It's really a fun modifier because you can get some really pretty patterns. So you can get the black. He ends up real pretty. He ends up a grulo or a grula. Depends, the spelling and the pronunciation changes depending on where you are. But grulo is what we say here. Very, very pretty horse if you're a black. Bays can be either a bay dun or a buckskin dun if you also happen to have that cream modifier. There's a lot of options when you have the different modifiers. Chestnuts are red duns or dunalinos if they're a palomino who got the dun gene. So like I said, when you have more than one modifier acting on the same horse, you can get some real interesting combinations. Roan is one of my favorite modifiers. Okay? Absolutely one of my favorite modifiers. Why is it one of my favorites? It's because with a roan, you have 50% of the hairs on the horse go white. So you end up with this really cool kind of look. If you look at some pictures of blue roans or red roans, they're actually quite awesome. Okay, so the white hair mixes with the base color pretty much on 50-50, on a 50-50 mix here. So it's like every second hair is white, and it's fantastic. And this is true of the entire body except for the limbs, head, mane, and tail. These stay the base color. So the main body gets some white, gets 50% white hairs, but like the head and the mane and the smooches, smooches, they all stay the base color. So it's actually really cool. I love roans. So you can have like blue roans, bay roans, red roans. I love red roans, by the way. You can have buckskin roans. The roan is quite the modifier, and it can modify with anything else. So you can have a cream modifier and a roan modifier and a dun modifier all in the same pony. It's actually really cool. And roan is my favorite modifier just because I love that effect when you look, especially the red roans. I see your ear. Yes, and smooches. Okay. The final modifier I wanted to talk about today is the champagne modifier. This one's not quite as common, but it is really pretty when you get it. So this dilutes the base color of any color to like a really golden creamy color. All the hairs. So body hair, legs, head, everything gets diluted. And you really get these brightly colored, beautiful horses. Usually they have amber colored eyes and pink skin and maybe darker freckling, right? Like around the nose and stuff, they might have some freckling. So you have classic champagnes, amber champagnes, and golden champagnes. And these are absolutely stunningly beautiful horses. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. So champagne is a beautiful modifier. It's not quite as common as like the cream modifier, which gives you palominos, which is fine. Can I get this off your skin? No, I got it. Ha ha ha. You stinker. So those are your basic modifiers. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I did all 5. Good. Those are your 5 basic modifiers. Now, that's not it for pony colors. I am going to stop for today because that's like, we're at 11 minutes now. That's a long video for me. But when we come back next week, we're going to talk about the patterns. So when you add base colors to modifiers to patterns, you can get some of the most beautiful, beautiful little minis you've ever seen in your life, including this little smoocher. Hi, smoocher. Smooch. Good boy. So when we come back next week, we'll talk about the different patterns that mini horses could have. But in the meantime, those were your modifiers. There's a lot of them. I know there's 5 of those plus the 3 main base colors. And they can all come together for some really, really interesting colors. So spend some time looking at the different colors that are out there, finding out a little bit more about how they work together to create some really fantastically beautiful little minis. And you'll be well on your way to understanding how color genetics work in the pony world. It's complicated. We'll see you tomorrow.